Hello, everyone, and welcome to the fall 2021 sports season. My name is Dan Stadtmiller. I'm the Director of Health, PE, and Athletics here at Jordan Elbridge Central School District. Before we get started, just some important information on the screen. My contact information is up there, phone number, our social media Twitter page, and also our athletics text updates. We run through Remind. We typically will send out daily games or any changes that are occurring. Very easy way to get out information. So if you want to subscribe to that, feel free to do so. And you can also unsubscribe at any time. So if you have an athlete in the fall season and not in the winter season, and you don't want to get those text reminders anymore, you can easily unsubscribe, or if you're having trouble, can always email me. We're going to get through this quick and efficiently as possible. If you had an athlete in the high school athletics program prior to this, some of this may be repeat information, but again, it is always a good review for you to hear some of these things. So just some policies and updates and things before we begin. Every athlete needs to be signed up on Family ID, and they need to be approved through Family ID to participate. So obviously, as we're a week into the JV and varsity season here roughly, and modified sports are starting here shortly, it's very important that they're signed up on Family ID and approved through Family ID. That is where we get all of our signatures needed that we need collected, and also all the health history information that is required by New York State. Physicals are back to normal this year. Last year, you'll recall that anyone that had a physical within the previous 3 years was approved due to the ongoing COVID pandemic. This year, we are back to normal rules. They have to have a physical within 1 calendar year. You'll see that there are pink forms that you will be getting home if you haven't already so. There's a picture of one on the screen here. It's an authorization for emergency treatment for a minor. That needs to come back. We keep those in our med kit. And in the rare occurrence of a severe injury, this information will accompany a child to a hospital and has all the important information on it. But thankfully, we rarely, if ever, have to use these. When you signed up on Family ID, there was informed consent and consent for testing. As of right now, this recording, the recommendations are that we test unvaccinated athletes. We are still not 100% sure how we will move forward with that, but we will be communicating you in a timely fashion when we have a policy in place. We do know that, again, the recommendations from the county are to test unvaccinated athletes and staff members. And as you know, things continually change. But by signing up, you did give us consent to test if we need to do so. Daily health screenings. Last year, we had kids fill out a Google form. This year, we're not asking them to do that. The CDC has largely said that has been ineffective in COVID prevention. So we're just asking kids and parents, if you don't feel well, stay home. It's the easiest way to help combat this right now. Moving on away from some other policies to new policies, chain of command and 24-hour rule. If you've talked with me or coaches, you've probably heard this explanation before. It's just we want to follow a good chain of command when issues arise. So the first thing we want, if there's an issue on a team, have the athlete talk to the coach. If it still can't be resolved, parent, please feel free to reach out to the coach. Coaches should be giving out contact information, setting up remind accounts. So you should have a way to access the coach. And at that point, if you feel that the issue is still not resolved, that's when you would reach out to me as athletic director, and we would have to sit down to figure things out. The 24-hour rule has to do, when, you're upset at a contest, you're maybe not happy with the way things went, you're upset with the coach. We want to wait 24 hours for cooler heads to prevail. We know that when a coach is upset or a parent is upset, things escalate very quickly, and it's easier just to wait the 24 hours and then have a sit down with the parties involved. Things that I talk to my coaches and tell them that they do not have to discuss are their strategy and play calling. That is why we've hired the coach. That is their job. Yes, it is, I'm sure, critiqued by many. And we all have our opinions, and we would all do different things differently, and that's fine. But right now the coaches are the coaches, and at the end of the season, I do evaluate each coach individually. So the athletic department will take care of that stuff. Playing time. I tell them not to discuss, the playing time of students, especially other students, but I also encourage them to discuss what students can do to earn more playing time. So that should be a conversation between really the athlete and the coach. And as always, I tell our coaches and our parents that they can't discuss other students. And I know sometimes it might involve other students, but I've specifically instructed our coaches not to talk about other students with parents, as it is a violation of privacy. Some basics here for the season. The season starts Monday, the 23rd for JV and varsity sports, and it runs through roughly the end of October, early November. Cross country will be one of the only teams that's going to that late, the 11/7 date. Most other JV and varsity sports, depending on sectional qualifications, will wrap up between mid and late October. Modified football starts the 1st of September. They get a week ahead to start because they do require a few more practices than all the other modified sports that will start on the first day of school. For the most part, our JV and varsity sports programs are a 6-day-a-week commitment. And this means that they may practice on Saturdays. They may have film review on Sundays for football. So again, most of our sports are a 6-day-a-week commitment. So for our students that are working, you really need to schedule your work around your athletics. Missing, practices or games for your employment will result in you not getting the playing time that you might desire. So your schedules are all up on Schedule Galaxy for games. I know things change. So check Schedule Galaxy regularly, but give your employers your schedule so you can try to work around those things. Practice schedules will be posted weekly on our website, as well as announced at the end of the day. And the coaches, I'm sure, will be giving out calendars of practices or communicate how they will tell you about practice times. Our school hours this year: high school dismisses at 2:15. Practices can start right at 2:30, and the middle school dismisses at 2:50, and all of their practices will start right about 3 or 3:30. We do have early dismissal Wednesdays back in our schedule again, so athletes must report to study hall or go home and return. We do not want our athletes leaving and piling in cars with other teenagers and then coming back. Really should be a parent transporting them. Obviously, the risk and liability of kids, piling in the cars, and then we complicate it with COVID. It's just not a good mixture. So if you want to stay in sports study hall and you have practice at 2:30, that's the place to be. If you drive yourself or a parent's going to bring you up and take you home, that's fine as well too. Middle school sports study hall will be from 2:50 to roughly 3 o'clock, but we'll stay as late as 3:30 for practices that might start a little bit later. I think we have a coach, maybe one or two, that can't get there till like 3:15 or 3:20. All practices at the middle school should roughly be done no later than 5 o'clock. Some important dates, as you will see, I want to draw your attention to our sports boosters. We meet the second Monday of every month, and those will all be on the district calendar. If you can, please, it's 1 month or 1 meeting a month, and the sports boosters does so much for our student athletes. Most of our members have had kids already graduate and are starting to leave. So we do need a new set of individuals to help take over this year. I know I've sent some emails home asking for help, and I've gotten quite a good response, but please, the more the merrier at these meetings. It's one meeting a month. That's all we're asking. We talked about the start dates already. Tentatively, we are having our pep rally. It'll be 8 o'clock on September 15th. Teams and athletes will have to be there by 7:15. That is tentative. We're hoping to do that the way we normally do this year, but we'll have to see where things are as we get a little bit closer. Our sports pictures will be the 23rd of September. More information will be coming from the coaches, and modified sports pictures will be the 28th. It says September 30th for our home football game. That is the plan right now, but we're having trouble getting officials. So that is a Thursday. It's looking like we may have to move it to Saturday, but nothing is official yet. So that date may change. Again, that will be adjusted on Schedule Galaxy and through our coaching staff and high school announcements as well. And the last day on there that's very important, November 10th, our Varsity Fall Sports Awards at 6 p.m. All athletes and coaches should be in attendance for that. And again, that's for varsity sports only. On IB days, there will not be practices for modified sports. Hot topic right now, face coverings. As of right now, I am recording this on Monday, August 16th, so it is possible that this could change. Outdoors, there are no mask requirements right now. Indoors, masks must be worn by all athletes and spectators. So the only indoor sport that we offer in the fall is volleyball. So I'm sorry, volleyball spectators, athletes, coaches, trainers, bench players, game personnel, and all others will have to wear a mask. Again, the mask should be of just a generic color. We don't want any personal agenda masks or anything like that during gameplay. And coaches will be in charge of monitoring the athletes and making sure they're wearing them appropriately. Right now, testing, as you can see, I left this blank for right now because it's kind of a to be determined. As we move forward, again, the recommendation was to test unvaccinated athletes. And right now, as of August 16th, that is our plan. However, plans change, especially with the way this pandemic is being handled right now. So right now, again, our plan is we'll be testing only unvaccinated athletes, and we usually will do that Monday mornings. That will not start the first week of athletics, so the 23rd for our JV and varsity. We're going to give it a week or so as school is not up and running yet, and they won't be jeopardizing any in-person learning, because that's the big concern right now is making sure that the schools stay open 5 days a week. So there will be more to come on that. An email will follow from my office with the full updates, but as of right now, that is the plan for testing. Speaking of testing, one of our main people who will be involved with testing is Rebecca DeMario, our athletic trainer. She oversaw all the testing last year and does an excellent job. If you've had a chance to meet Becca, you know that she is a workhorse for the athletic department. She does whatever needs to be done and can be seen at pretty much all of our events covering the overall wellness of our students. She has an office at our school and stadium, and as great as she is not a replacement for a primary care doctor. So she will make an initial, appraisal of a student and see what she thinks is going on. And if she refers them to a doctor, they definitely need to see a doctor. And a lot of times we can't even have an athlete return until they've seen a doctor. So please make sure you follow up with her directions and what she's recommending as soon as possible. Big thing that we need to make sure students are doing, please make sure they report all injuries to our coaches and to you as parents, because a lot of times, they'll get hurt on a Monday and, I don't think it's that bad. And all of a sudden Friday or the next week rolls around and they report an injury to us that happened a week ago. It just slows things down. So it's important that we know right away, and Becca can start working with kids or getting them, recommended to where they need to go right away so we can get the kid back safer and quicker. Concussion's always a hot topic in sports, and we are on the side of caution here. When in doubt, we leave them out. If a doctor gives them clearance to return, that does not mean they just pop right back in. There is a return to play protocol, and that typically takes at least 5 days. If a student is recovering from a COVID infection, there's also a return to play protocol. The big thing is that it starts with a doctor's release. A doctor has to release a kid after a COVID infection for them to return, just because of the cardiovascular issues that we have been seeing with younger kids, especially. Becca's email is up here if you ever need to contact her. So just want to go over quickly the normal code of conduct violations, quitting teams, just so everyone is aware of the policies that are in place. These all come directly out of our athletic extracurricular handbook, which can be found on our website. It is a board-approved document. And these policies are exactly the same as they've been the last couple of years. So again, just reviewing these quickly. If an athlete quits a team after they've been at 15 or more sessions, they are ineligible for next season's contests, for 50% of next season's contest. This also applies if a student's kicked off the team for discipline. So again, the reason this being is if you're there 15 times, you've made a commitment to the team, you need to finish out your commitment. Doesn't mean you have to do it again next year. Doesn't mean you have to, do a sport next season either. But we really think we want kids to, if they're going to commit to something and they've committed for at least 15 sessions, we feel that they need to finish that out. Code of conduct violations. If after an administrative investigation is determined that a kid or an athlete engaged in any form of bullying is subject to discipline set forth by the district's code of conduct, which can include suspension from practices, games, or contests, suspension from school, dismissal from team or activities, or dismissal from the athletics or extracurricular program altogether. Other code of conduct violations, aside from bullying, include use, sell, purchase, or distribution of tobacco products, electronic cigarettes, cigars, chewing tobacco, snuff, alcohol or alcoholic substances, inhalants, marijuana, cocaine, LSD, PCP, amphetamines, heroin, bath salts, steroids, or anything that is represented or made up to be of a drug. This includes designer drugs. It is also inappropriate use of prescription or carrying over-the-counter drugs. In school, you cannot just carry over-the-counter drugs like Advil or Tylenol. They have to be with the nurse, and that is a New York State education law. Students can and will be searched with reasonable suspicion per New York State ed law. I'm just going to be honest with you. The biggest thing that we get up here are the vapes. We do have vape detectors. We have metal detectors, which will, when kids try to hide the vapes because they are very small, metal detectors do go off in the presence of a vape because of the lithium battery. These things are just not good, number one. And number two, if we're an athlete especially, they are not going to help you. They're only going to hinder your performance. So we have had a lot of issues with these, and we continue to. So please have a conversation with your students about vaping and the risks that are associated with it. If you are in violation of these code of conduct, whether it's bullying, major behavior issues in school, fighting, drugs, substance abuse, here are the violation penalties for the athletes. And this is in addition to anything the school would do in terms of suspension from in-school activities or out-of-school suspension. So we'll just do a hypothetical. Student gets caught with a vape for a first time. Typically, you're looking at a suspension for in-school. And then in addition, as an extracurricular athlete, the first offense would be a 7 calendar day suspension from athletics. They would need to meet with a drug and alcohol counselor if it was involved, and would have to have a re-entry meeting before they can return to sports. So at 7 calendar days, they are out. Second offense would be suspension from the sport for the season. So if it's their second time getting caught in school or outside of school, we have had some issues where bullying has happened outside of school or substance abuse obviously happening out of school. They will be suspended for the remainder of the season. And that will also require meetings with a drug and alcohol counselor. And the third offense is suspension from school athletics and extracurricular activities permanently. And please note, these aren't just during a particular season or school year. This is throughout their entire enrollment as a JE student. So starting in 7th grade when they can participate in sports all the way through 12th grade. So it's really, really important. We hold our athletes and extracurricular participants to a high standard here, that they cannot be participating in any of those types of behavior. Spectators, as you know, last year, it was not the most enjoyable part of my job, limiting spectators, telling people they can't watch from the parking lots, telling people they can't be on site, have to wear masks. I understand that was very frustrating. We're hoping this year looks a little bit better. And again, as I record this on August 16th, currently there are no limitations on spectators at any events. All games at the high school stadium or high school gym will be streamed via live through YouTube. And that is installation pending. We have ordered automated cameras from a company called Huddle that will be streaming these events live. So that will hopefully be up, but right now they are still not in, as like all things during the pandemic, shippings and materials have been delayed. So we are waiting on those, and we will likely find another way to stream. This will be a change. The modified events will not be streamed this year. Because we are allowing spectators. So we are going to focus on the high school streaming right now. Face coverings are not required for outdoor events, but don't leave your face covering at home if you're coming to an event, because if you go into the restrooms at the stadium, you need to throw on a face mask. And if you're coming to a volleyball game here, any indoor facility or event will have to have a face mask. Just in the interest of limiting the amount of contact time, please don't show up more than 30 minutes before the contest. And at the end of the contest, don't congregate with everybody. Try to, get your students, say your hellos and goodbyes, and leave the facility. Again, it's not that we want to rush you out of here, but we just want to limit how much contact time right now, as the variant has been spreading pretty rapidly in the area. When you're, in the stands, you should remain distanced from other parties, and this is for your protection. I'm not going to be walking around with a measuring stick, making sure everyone's 3 to 6 feet apart, but Stay with your little pod that you're in and distance yourselves as much as you can during the contests. Philosophy of athletics, this is mostly has to do with modified and varsity. We do have one JV team, but modified, every student plays in every game unless there's a discipline issue. And the modified coaches do work with the varsity coaches to achieve the same goals. The JV level, winning does become a little bit more of a consideration. Again, you'll see that working with the varsity coach to achieve the same goals is the same. And every student should get into every game, not just the last minute of the game. And I understand sometimes this isn't possible for all sports. As a JV coach myself for a number of years, I coached softball, and with the way you substitute people in and out, it wasn't possible for me to get 20 kids into a game sometimes. So we understand that it's not going to happen every game, but we would like a good faith effort. Varsity, winning becomes the most of importance in consideration of all three levels. And we tell our coaches, they're going to put their best team forward, and playing time is never a guarantee. And I know that's sometimes hard to hear. A lot of times we think that class rank should mean they should play more, but if we have a freshman that the coach deems is their best foot forward and it's over a senior, then that's the coach's decision in the way that it will be. So again, that is the varsity level. Academic eligibility from the Code of Conduct. Again, this is posted on the website. You can review it. Basically, kids have to be passing their classes. Okay? If they're failing 2 or more classes, they end up on academic probation, which they will be meeting with me. I will send you an email or a phone call that will say your student is failing 2 or more classes, and they will have to fill out some progress reports each week and turn those in to me. If they don't turn them in, they're ineligible for the week. If they turn them in and things are looking good, we'll be good to go. So I will meet and explain that process with you if you fall into that. Students are all eligible to start the school year, and the marking period at the high school is 6 weeks, the middle school 10 weeks. So for the most part, eligibility doesn't play into too much of a factor except the last couple weeks of the season. Bullying and substance abuse policies, again, all that stuff is available on our website if you'd like to read the full policies. I've taken the important bits and pieces and put it here for you. All students need to be in school by 8 a.m. to be eligible to participate, unless with a legal note from a doctor, dentist, or college official. So be on time to school, students. Typically, I'll give you a warning the first time. The second, third time, I'm going to start sitting you, whether it's practice or games, you won't be going that day. So it's important to be on time. Transportation, we will be providing busing to all contests. And right now, again, according to guidance from Onondaga County, we can have more students than we had last year. So we should have plenty of seats for students. They will need to wear a mask on the bus. We are going to allow you to transport your own student to games again this year, to and from games. You will need to fill out paperwork that the coach will be giving you. It is a transportation authorization form. It just basically lists your name and who can bring the athlete to and from the games. Has to be a responsible adult, because the athletes are not allowed to drive themselves to away contests without administrative approval. So again, that would have to be a parent or guardian over the age of 18. It is possible JV and varsity teams may not travel together. It depends on the location. Again, we may try to limit the contact time for kids, but as of right now, most of the teams should be able to travel together. We don't have any teams that are extremely large that would require us to take a second bus. But it is possible, and we'd be talking JV, varsity volleyball. We may run 2 separate buses just so the JV kids don't have to sit around and collect more contact time than needed. So your coaches will provide you information on the buses. Again, the biggest thing is masks are required on the buses at all times. If students or teams are not complying, we will just suspend the use of transportation, and we'll have to figure out how to get there on their own. Masks have to be worn on the bus, and there's no excuses. Food or drink cannot be consumed on the bus, and make sure that students arrive prepared to play. I'm guessing that some schools will not allow visiting teams into locker rooms this year, so students should arrive or change before they leave. As I talk to you about the transportation authorization form, this is what the form looks like. Put parent's name, student's name, and which building, and then put mom, dad, parent, sign it and return it to me. And that shows that you are authorizing the release and the transportation of your students to and from contests for the year or for the season, I should say. We've gotten a lot of brand new uniforms. If it's an Under Armour uniform, please, please, please do not throw it in the dryer or add fabric softener. They're sublimated uniforms. They just need to be light wash, cold water, and then air dry. If there's damage to them, if they get ripped, whatever the case may be, please let us know. These are warranted and I get free replacements. If you don't turn in your uniform at the end of the year, you will get a bill for the full amount of the uniform, and they are not cheap. So please, please make sure those get back to the coaches. And again, if students have negative debt, if they don't pay, they will not be allowed to participate in graduation activities. That brings us to the conclusion of the meeting today. I appreciate you tuning in and checking out the athletic policies for the 2021 fall sports season. If you ever have questions, again, please email me, call my office, and the coaches will be having miniature meetings with the teams within the first week of the season to discuss many of the team-specific policies that will be in place. So again, I thank you for tuning in. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. Thanks, everybody.